Well, President Trump shows up in the Middle East and they gave him a king's welcome. I mean, really, they did. A king's welcome. And the radical left, they're seeing how President Trump is being welcomed as a king in the Middle East. And it has every last one of them furious. They're all angry because President Trump is getting a king's welcome. And I just asked a second ago, and this is for those of you watching on the replay, even as well. Who is the King of Kings? Do you know the answer to that, Shannon? Who is the King of Kings? Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus is the King of Kings. So I know I did a short video last night. I did it on Facebook and YouTube, just really quick. Just a little quick. I say it was quick. It's about 30 minutes or so. And I talked about this documentary that I created about President Trump. This was maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I did this documentary and it started to go viral until they started penalizing the video. And the reason why they penalized the video is because the documentary is just a little 7-minute documentary. And it showed President Trump where he went around the world, set foot in North Korea, went to India, had 100,000 people in the stadium there to hear President Trump. Thousands of people lined up to hear President Trump at the stadium. He went to Saudi Arabia last time, got a king's welcome. He went to Israel. They labeled places after President Trump in Israel. And President Trump was going to other nations. And they were welcoming President Trump like a king then. And it's even more so this time. Open arms. Welcome President Trump. And Joe Biden didn't get any of this. Obama didn't get any of this. Now, he got a little bit talking about Obama, but nothing compared to what President Trump is receiving. And of course, the radical left, they see this and they go, there's no kings. And then you even have some people on the right that said there's only one king. But actually, if you read the Bible, there's multiple cases where there's multiple kings. But who is the King of Kings? Our Lord Jesus Christ is the King of Kings. And that's where the left, they fall off, right? They fall off when you bring that up, because they hate the fact that President Trump is going to all these nations. And some of these nations, they have what you call like a hit out on President Trump. And President Trump is still showing up in these nations. And the radical left is like, he's even going to these nations that had, like a hit on him. Well, guess what? President showed up like a boss. President Trump showed up like, what you gonna do? Here I am. And they did just the opposite, because President Trump didn't go there and say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this. He wasn't pointing fingers. He showed up and said, look, I know we have our differences and, it's part of the game. But would you like to make some money? Would you like for your country to prosper? Would you like to do that instead? And they're like, oh my goodness. As mean as we were to this man, he shows up asking us, do we want to be prosperous? Think about that. And of course, I was talking about this last night in the little short video that I did, that a lot of those on the left, they're looking at President Trump and saying, well, President Trump, because he's doing such miraculous things, positive things around the world. The only time that the Democrats, the left, the radical socialist communists even acknowledge that the Bible even exists is if they can weaponize it. And how they're trying to weaponize it by trying to say that President Trump is fulfilling what the Bible says about the Antichrist. See, when the Antichrist comes onto the scene, if for those of us that believe in God's word, we know that the Antichrist is going to come from the European Union. And there's even some conservatives that believe that Saudi Arabia or the Antichrist can come out the Middle East, but the Holy Bible doesn't say that nowhere. And some people get upset with me for saying that. They get upset with me for saying that. But it doesn't say it anywhere. Nowhere does it say that the Antichrist is going to show up from Saudi Arabia, Iran, Turkey. It's just the European Union. And it's clear about it. But of course, this is the only time that the Democrats will try to even think about the Bible, is when they can weaponize it. And then of course you have the false prophet, which if the Bible is clear about that the false prophet will come from the city of seven hills. And there's only one city that sits on seven hills in the world. Just one. I encourage you to go look it up. But to get back to President Trump going around the world, and I did this little short documentary talking about President Trump going around the world. And in that little documentary, I even showed how Nancy Pelosi, y'all remember the first impeachment of President Trump? Do you know when it happened? And I don't know why a lot of people never brought this point up. But President Trump was at the United Nations and he said that the United States of America would never become a communist socialist nation. He said this to the UN, and he told the people in the UN that, hey, for your country, I encourage you to put your country first. Well, the United Nations, they don't want to hear that because they want to have a one world global dominance. Well, President Trump could not leave the UN. This is in his first term. He could not leave the UN building before Nancy Pelosi went before the cameras and said, okay, we got to impeach him now. It had nothing to do with Ukraine. They just used Ukraine. They said, okay, what can we use to try to impeach him on? And then, of course, they said that he made a phone call to Zelensky at the time and the president of Ukraine. And remember, you had Adam Schiff reading the transcript, and there was nothing wrong with the transcript, and Adam Schiff was lying, said he was doing a parody. They wanted to impeach President Trump because of what he said to the world community, that the United States of America will always be a sovereign nation. The Democrats don't want that. Why do you think that the Democrats right now, as of today, are fighting for these people that are not even American citizens, the 21 million people that they brought into the country? They're fighting for them because they know, just like other nations, Europe, UK, all these other nations where they've opened up the border and allowed just whoever to come into the country, it has torn down that country. And that's exactly the same thing that the Democrats are trying to do to the United States of America. Why are they fighting for the illegal immigrants? You tell me, other than what I just said. Now, President Trump, he went around again, his second tour, going on a world tour, second time. And President Trump showing up. Let me share this with you. And I know many of y'all have already seen all of this, but I just want to talk about this. Can you bring it up for me? I want to share this. So President Trump showing up, and of course he shows up like a king, straight up king. And the Democrats are furious about this. This is what they're furious about. Not the fact that President Trump showed up, the United States president. Okay, let's say we say without Trump's name in it, the United States president shows up to these Middle East countries and they're showing respect to him and our country. And the Democrats don't like it. They don't like it. So now here's President Trump showing up. And I don't know if y'all will be able to notice it or you be able to tell, but they're flying American flags. These Middle East countries have more respect for the American flag than Democrats do here in America. Pretty sad, is it not? You'll see that President Trump shows up as a king, and that's how they're presenting, or that's how they're reacting to President Trump, as if he shows up as a king. Now we have some technical issues, and I do apologize. It's my fault. I'm sitting there talking, and it's just it's not even going out to the world. Hopefully, everyone is still here. So President Trump, he shows up to the Middle East, and he shows up like a king. Now, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I did this little short documentary. It was a little short documentary. And I don't know, could y'all hear me? Could y'all hear me, or was it like you could hear what I was saying with just no picture? Because I don't want to repeat all what I just said. So I think everyone could hear me. You just no picture. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments, because I won't repeat all of it, because then you would have heard me say it all. You'll just hear me say it again. So let me know in the chat. I'm looking in the chat right now. Let me know if y'all could hear me. You just couldn't see me. I just want to make sure before I go ahead. Could you hear me? I think that you could. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you could hear me, just no picture. My fault. My fault. Okay. So I'm glad you were able to hear me at least. That's a good thing. I do have another one I want to share with you about President Trump. And again, President Trump, he's doing things around the world, and they don't like this. You know, the Democrats, they had an opportunity to do what President Trump is doing. They've had plenty of opportunities, but they didn't do any of it. President Trump, he's on the mission of doing positive things in the world, and the Democrats, they're on the mission of doing negative things. And we see them doing the negative things. They're not even hiding the fact that they're doing negative things. I mean, the whole fact of them fighting for illegal immigrants and saying that these illegal immigrants, basically what they're saying, they're not saying it out loud, but they're basically saying that illegal immigrants have more rights than American citizens, and that they're worth more for fighting for than the American citizen. Because if they didn't think that, then they wouldn't be at these detention facilities fighting for them. So President Trump, again, he's going around the world doing positive things, and the Democrats don't like it. Let me share another one with you. And this is like the video I shared last night on the little short video that I did on Facebook and just YouTube. But this is like the same thing, but a little different, slightly different version of it. Watch.
Breaking news, Saudi media just gave Trump a new title, the true president of the world. When Trump arrived in Riyadh, it wasn't just diplomacy. It looked like a coronation. He was greeted with golden sabers, white Arabian stallions, and a royal motorcade fit for a king. It was imperial treatment. Saudi outlets called it a tribute to power, something no U.S. president in history has ever received. But Trump didn't just bring symbolism. He brought $600 billion in investment deals. He brought the world's attention back to the Middle East on his terms. He signed a $142 billion defense agreement and launched a U.S.-Saudi AI alliance. Even more shocking, Trump lifted all sanctions on Syria during the visit. Meanwhile, Biden is still struggling with domestic chaos, inflation, and collapsing approval ratings. So why is Saudi Arabia backing Trump and ignoring Biden? One Saudi anchor went viral for saying Trump no longer represents a party. He represents power. And when your allies start calling someone else the real global president, that you have to ask, who really lost power?
Listen to that. They're calling him the real global president. Bring that image back. Bring that image back. They're calling President Trump the real president, the global president. And when I saw this yesterday, I had to do a little short video on YouTube and Facebook just talking about this, just briefly. I did a short video. And let me ask y'all a question. When the Antichrist comes onto the scene, do you think the Antichrist is going to reject anything that the Democrats are currently doing? I mean, when it comes to the children, look at the books that they're trying to put in schools. Do you think the Antichrist will reject that? Because President Trump does. Do you think that the Antichrist would reject them putting children on different puberty blockers? Because President Trump does reject it. Do you think that the Antichrist would reject having a sovereign nation? Do you think that the Antichrist would reject the United States of America being able to protect itself? Do you think that the Antichrist would be open for having criminals remain in the United States of America? You understand what I'm saying? President Trump, he wants a sovereign nation. President Trump, he wants to protect our borders. President Trump wants the criminals out of our country. The Democrats want just the opposite of that. So does the Antichrist. Here's President Trump going around the world. And again, he's making positive changes. And I believe because President Trump is talking to all these nations, getting positive feedback, getting positive results, I believe personally, and I mentioned this last night, that the Antichrist is alive and well on the planet. This is just my personal opinion about this. So you don't have to send me any messages. You don't have to send me any emails. Will Johnson, you're wrong. You're wrong. That's your opinion. I have my opinion. I have my opinion based on what I'm seeing taking place on the planet. And with President Trump being the first president in American and the world history to go around the world and look at how they're welcoming him. Look how they're showing their respect for him. This is like really unheard of. And you know what? I got to thinking before I came on, I said, it's not that President Trump elevated himself for these Middle East countries to show respect to President Trump, waving the American flag more than the Democrats do. President Trump didn't do it. You know who elevated President Trump? You know who did that? Do you know, Shannon? Who elevated President Trump to this status? Do you know who did it? Just one guess.
The American people?
Well, yeah. But which ones? The Democrats. I think we have to give the Democrats credit because look at everything that they tried to do to President Trump. I mean, look at everything they tried to do to this man. The past 4 years, I mean, they did not stop a single day to try to take President Trump down. 2 assassination attempts. I mean, come on. The world was watching. President Trump came through, and they know themselves that the only way that this man could have made it through all the stuff that the Democrats put President Trump through is that the American people that believe in God and supported President Trump made it possible for him to come through all of this. But it was the Democrats. The Democrats, they could not go a single day without talking about President Trump. Not a single day, good or bad. And of course, the Democrats never say anything good about President Trump. They could never go a single day without talking about President Trump. Well, look how they spend money and use resources just to say welcome to President Trump. Thank you to President Trump. And this is, to my understanding, this is when he's getting ready to leave, getting ready to get back on Air Force One. Look at that. They have all those jets flying by, showing mad respect. Showing mad respect. You see that? I love when President Trump shakes a hand like that and he pulls him in. You ever notice that, Shannon?
I did. I love it.
I love it when he does that. Let me do it. Let me show it again. Look at this. He goes to shake the hand, grabs the hand, pulls it in. That's a power move. That's a power move. And it's all about respect. It's all about respect. I don't ever recall seeing Joe Biden get this level of respect. They knew that Joe Biden was a puppet. They knew Joe Biden was being controlled by the auto pen. Well, they probably didn't know he was being controlled by the auto pen, but I mean, it's kind of obvious that Joe Biden was being completely controlled, and everyone recognized it. Everyone recognized it. Well, look at this. Here it is. And this was on Fox News reporting about it. And President Trump showed up to another location. I think this was the last location because he was going to go to Turkey and have a sit down with Zelensky because Zelensky, he loves the spotlight. He wants to be in the spotlight. And President Trump is in the Middle East. And Zelensky said, oh, let's meet in Turkey. I'll meet Turkey. And President Trump said, yeah, no. Did you know that, Shannon?
Well, he said no because Putin was going to show up too. And then Putin put a list of who's going to show up, and it was a list of his dignitaries instead of Putin. And Trump's like, well, if Putin's not going,
then I'm not going to go.
I'm not going.
But Zelensky still wanted to go because Zelensky loves the spotlight.
Of course, Zelensky showed up, and he's like showboating, saying, see, I'm the one that wants peace. I'm here.
Yeah, and he doesn't. But look at this one. I like this one as well.
Now we're looking at the President of the United States, who's now officially in the final leg of his journey at the United Arab Emirates, where he is being greeted. It looks like inside of what would be a sophisticated hangar where Air Force One pulled into.
You can see American flags there on the right.
The plane.
Yeah, you can see the UAE flags.
So there's no stairs to walk down. He walks onto a platform.
So I think this is the final leg of the trip.
Yes,
right?
it is. I come back tomorrow.
He's been welcomed in.
He's going to be touring and visiting the iconic landmark in Abu Dhabi. He's going to have dinner tonight. And there's going to be an AI roundtable and trade talks a little bit later. The UAE is extremely ambitious. They want to become a semiconductor and AI powerhouse. And as we look for other places to get this outside China, that is music to our ears.
Looks like someone presented him flowers, maybe a child, it looks like. And then we haven't talked about
enough
this.
Children.
We haven't talked about this morning, the Chinook helicopter sale to the UAE. The State Department approved a possible foreign military sale to the UAE. It would be 6 CH-47F Chinook helicopters worth an estimated $1.32 billion.
So, Ainsley and Brian, it's always interesting when they welcome the president because each country has done something different. We've gotten camels, we've gotten horses as well to escort the president. And now it was some type of performance that you're seeing there as they have the American flag as well as the UAE.
Yeah, perhaps more than any other Gulf state, the UAE sees investment with the U.S. central to its strategy. It will deepen ties. There will be secures in return, and they have the money to back it up. It's one of the wealthiest countries in the world.
The UAE. And this is another country that they wanted them to. You know what they wanted to see, Shannon? I'm talking about the radical left. They wanted to see President Trump go overseas and just get completely rejected. Like, don't even make him wait in the airplane. Don't bring him. Don't bring the steps up there.
Yeah.
Like, make him come off the back of the plane. Just they wanted him to be completely disrespected, but it's complete opposite. The complete opposite. And here in America, the Democrats are screaming, "Oh my goodness, President Trump, President Trump." The TDS is a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they wanted Trump to go over there necessarily because they know even from Trump's first term, Trump did a very good trip the first time. Remember his first stem as president, I think it was Saudi Arabia gave him like a huge welcoming. I mean, they had a stadium that everybody wanted to come and hear him. Wasn't it in Saudi Arabia? It was one of this countries in the Middle East. It was India. That's right. It was India.
India has a stadium, from what I remember, it has over 100,000 people. And it was part of the documentary that I did. Over 100,000 people in that stadium. And I actually showed it in that documentary.
Yeah. And one thing I love about Trump is, a lot of people are like, why is he doing this? They're not understanding what he's doing. And what Trump is trying to do is he's not just America first, although he is America first, but he knows that he's creating peace through economic growth.
Yes, he's telling them, hey, do y'all want to be prosperous? Do you want to make some money?
Yeah, and so he's meeting with these people, and he's saying, let's come together, let's make money for each other. You invest in me, I invest in you, and when you have a really good relationship, and you economically have a somewhat of a dependence or a relationship with the country, you don't want anything bad to happen to them, right? Because you
No.
like have an investment now in them. And so Trump is like, let's do this, let's have peace. But not only that, these countries were starting to have agreements, or China was trying to have agreements with them.
Yes.
And so now Trump has basically cut that off. He's cutting off China's power by creating a relationship and a dependence, and a mutual dependence with these countries. Is absolutely smart. Trump is so smart.
Yes. I would agree with you. Let me ask y'all about this airplane. So President Trump is receiving a 400 million plus airplane.
Well, Department of Defense is.
What the Department of Defense?
Let's just say it correctly, because you know how the Democrats are.
Yeah, the Department of Defense receiving this airplane. I didn't want you to bring this up yet. And President Trump is saying, yeah, I'll take the plane. I'm probably going to turn it into Air Force One. And of course, all of the radical left, all of the Democrats, they're upset, saying, what about the ethics in this? It's the Department of Defense that's receiving the plane and not Trump personally. It's not going to Trump, the family. It's being donated to the United States of America. And President Trump just happened to be in office. And then President Trump said they're going to turn it into Air Force One. And you know what? You have even some conservatives that are upset that President Trump is receiving this plane. They're upset with him that he's receiving this plane. And they're saying, well, you can't, President Trump is going to get the plane and it's not going to be secure. And he lays it out very well. Let me share it with you. Watch.
And he said the plane poses, quote, significant espionage and surveillance problems. That's not true?
If you took it and you assume that the president's going to jump in it as it sets and ride along and have security briefings, there's no chance in the world that's going to happen. Anybody that knows anything about the intelligence world knows that, one, we're going to strip it completely down, because the only thing we need is the frame. The interior and the electronics on a standard 747 will never work for the presidential Air Force One. It doesn't work. We have some air defense technology that doesn't come from Boeing. We have a lot of technology that's on there for the president to be connected so it can be the White House in the air. No chance that anything inside that plane stays inside that plane. So for anyone that has concerns, they don't even begin to understand our intelligence.
Exactly. And you know what? They can get the plane and strip it completely down and put in the Air Force One components and the latest and greatest components. I mean, after stripping it down, putting it all back in there quicker than Boeing can build another plane. Make that make sense. And see, I told you, I think President Trump is doing this, saying, hey, Boeing, I mean, what are you doing? You need to get on your JOB. And it's actually a pretty sweet looking plane. I mean, it really is. And then, of course, you know, after President Trump uses it as Air Force One, he says he's going to retire it at his presidential library. And the Democrats don't like that either, because you know how huge of a location President Trump's library is going to be? President Trump is going to be able to put all of the impeachment information in there. He's going to be able to put what he's done around the world in there. His legacy. I mean, have they even talked about a library for Joe Biden? Have they even talked about that? You know, I think Joe Biden probably has his library being built in Ukraine.
He'll be gone before his library is actually built.
I don't know, but they're going to probably build it in Ukraine if they build one. But I haven't even heard them mention it, because look how long it's taken. They still haven't even finished Obama's.
No, they haven't. In fact, I think that President Trump's library will be one of the most popular libraries in history, other than Ronald Reagan's. Ronald Reagan's library is very popular.
You don't think Bill Clinton's was popular?
Huh?
You don't think Billy Clinton's library was popular? Everyone wanted to go see it, see if the dress was there.
You and I have actually been to the Clinton library when it first opened up.
It looks like a double wide in a trailer park.
Yeah, because we lived in Arkansas. Man, we used to make so much fun of that library.
It really, I mean, it's kind of like, wow. I mean, this is what they did.
Yeah,
and it's sitting on stilts. You know, like it straight up looks like a double wide. Bill Clinton's presidential library, it looks like a double wide in a trailer park. You can't make it up. And whoever designed it, I mean, they should have been fired and never should have done it in the first place. But nonetheless, they did it, and it is there. Let me share something else with you from the Communist News Network talking about this airplane. They're upset.
Sure. Here, as this jet situation is playing out, he's also meeting with a jihadist that had a U.S. bounty on his head.
Now, you know what? I really want to emphasize on that. He's saying that President Trump is meeting with jihadists that had a bounty on his head. I mentioned that just a second ago. President Trump showing up, not wanting to be violent. President Trump with these people that had a bounty on his head, and President Trump showed us, said, "I'm here."
I mean, how do you
Now
move
what?
forward?
I mean, no. I mean, that's what you call a real boss.
He is a real boss. He knows
That's what you call a real boss. Like, I'm showing up. You have a bounty on my head. Now what? What you gonna do?
You know what? These people are weak. Trump is a leader, and he's showing that he's a leader. He's
Yes.
like, listen, whatever happened, we need to move forward. Let's move forward. You're not ever listen.
That's what you call a true leader.
That's what a true leader is. I mean, all
Yep.
these leaders meet at events. You know, I mean, they all sit with each other there.
Yeah.
Why can't Trump go to their country and show them respect? That's what they want. They wanted him to come to that country, show him respect, and they show respect back.
Yeah, exactly. Respect given, respect received.
Sure. Here, as this jet situation is playing out, he's also meeting with a jihadist that had a U.S. bounty on his head. He's opening the door to Iran, long, of course, scorned by especially conservative Republicans. What else? There's several other things that we ticked through that the president is doing that if you had previously told me, you know, in pre-Trump era, and I feel like a broken record saying this, but I would have told you were crazy. Like, what planet were you living on? How do you feel about the way that the president is embracing the leaders in the Middle East in this way, and the changing posture he has toward people that have been, quite frankly, sworn enemies?
Yeah, he has thrown a lot of the old orthodoxy out the window because I think he just doesn't feel hemmed in by the politicians of the past. I mean, we did not elect a president here who comes from the normal political channels. He doesn't feel like he has to abide by the old rules. And he, I think, is dealing in realism. He would say, I'm dealing with the people that I have to deal with. You may not like it, but these are the people I have to deal with. On Qatar, and we have $26 billion in active foreign military sales with these people. They're the second largest foreign military sales partner that we have. They just spent $8 billion over the last several years on our huge military base that we have there. So it's not like we're not already in bed with the people in Qatar, like it or not. And I'm not here to defend some of the things they've done, but we already have partnerships with these people. And so the idea that this president is not going to deal with them or deal with other players in the region when we are already so entangled, I think is not realistic. And look, this man was put on earth to make deals. He's a deal maker. I think this trip to the Middle East, he's already showing this is what he was put here to do.
I mean, you hear what he just said? This man was put on earth to make deals. And that's exactly what he's doing. And of course, they don't like it. They want President Trump to be bitter. Oh, how dare you put a bounty on my head? I'm going to get you. We're going to blow you up. We're going to bomb you. And President Trump said, nah, we're not going to do that. You know, let's make some money. Let's make a deal. And that's exactly, I mean, and they can't stand it. They don't know how to deal with President Trump. President Trump knows how to make deals across the planet, and they don't understand it. They want animosity. They want chaos. And they try to create these situations where the United States of America can't get along. And President Trump knows this, that the left is trying to do that, and he just reverses it on them.
And he's doing it.
Laura Loomer called the Qataris jihadists in suits. Is she wrong or right?
They have engaged in activities that are absolutely against American interests. There's no question. They have also engaged in activities such as investing $8 billion in our military base and engaging in these foreign military sales that are in our interest. It is a mixed bag with these people, but there's no question they have engaged in anti-American pro-terrorism activities.
And President Trump acknowledges that. He acknowledges that. And of course, did you want to say something, Shannon, real quick?
I mean, I just want to say that here's the thing. As far as Iran goes, like we said, Trump is over there to build friendships, because when you do businesses with people, they want to protect you. All of a sudden, now that Trump did this little trip with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, guess what? All of a sudden, Iran is saying, okay, maybe we'll be willing to give up our stockpile of highly enriched uranium as part of a nuclear agreement with Trump. This offer is signaling Iran's openness to reviving its negotiations and the possibility of returning back to the 2015 nuclear deal that they had before. And it's all because Trump's making friends with with the allies of Iran, which is Qatar and these other places. They're now saying, Iran, maybe you just want to put a pause on what you're doing. We need some cooperation here. This is what you call peace through strength. Peace through, I call it economic prosperity, is what I'm calling it.
Yeah, there's Tehran is saying that they're willing to give up its stockpile even. And I have some notes here. A senior Iranian official stated that Tehran is willing to give up its stockpiles of highly enriched uranium as part of a potential nuclear agreement with former President Trump. Right? Now the president of the country, of the world, president of the world. This offer signals Iran's openness to revisiting negotiations and possibly returning its terms to similar to the 2015 nuclear deal in exchange of sanction relief and other guarantees. The move could represent a major step towards de-escalation and a renewed diplomatic engagement between the U.S. and Iran. So this is Tehran. This is Tehran coming to the table saying we need to make this work. We need to make this happen. We need to make this work. Hey, let me say thank you to Stacks on Pilled. Thank you so much for the gold pills. Thank you so much for the gold pills. I greatly appreciate it. If you're watching this on Rumble, please hit the thumbs up. Same thing on YouTube. If you're watching this, please hit the thumbs up. It actually makes a difference with the algorithm. So if you haven't